Welcome to Amplify Your Mindset with Ricky Kalman. Motivational speaker, mindset expert, and celebrity hypnotist Ricky Kalman has amazed audiences around the world. Kalman empowers his audience with simple but powerful techniques to boost confidence and belief toward their goals and to exceed their own personal and professional expectations. Each episode features business leaders, motivators, and incredible individuals who share how mindset has contributed to their success. Put awareness and action into your life with the confidence that you'll succeed at the things you want to make happen. Here is Ricky Kalman.
Hi, this is Ricky Kalman, and welcome back to another episode of Amplify Your Mindset. You know, all too often, we take things in our life for granted. We forget to be thankful for the people in our lives and the everyday experiences which surround us. We all have something to be grateful for, and it's the expression of gratitude which brings the greatest rewards. Being grateful for even the smallest things empowers our subconscious mind to appreciate those experiences and gifts. And when I say gifts, I'm just talking about the small gratitude of a thank you, an appreciation of a well-done job, even just an appreciation of a relationship or communication with a friend. Did you accomplish a difficult task today? Be grateful for that. Thank yourself. Celebrate that achievement, no matter how small it is. Even the smallest thing should be celebrated. Now let me ask you something. How often do you thank others for what they do for you? We appreciate it. No, don't get me wrong. We appreciate the things, but do we actually take time and recognize that, to thank them? How often do we appreciate others for what they do? Well, that's a big question. You know, companies do that, and there's companies that don't. Which leads me into my guest today. David Sturt is an executive vice president at O.C. Tanner, a $500 million global recognition and culture company. He is also a New York Times bestselling author of great work, How to Make a Difference People Love, and the newly released companion book, Appreciate. His work and interviews have been published in the Wall Street Journal, Harvard Business Review, Fast Company, and Inc., and he is a co-author of a weekly leadership column in Forbes.com. He has spoken at TEDx and to thousands of business leaders at conferences around the world, and at companies including Bank of America, Dow Chemical, Nationwide, Home Depot, and MGM. David Sturt, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Great being with you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and let our listeners find out a little bit more about you, about your background, because you're a pretty inspiring guy as an author, as a leader. Let's just jump right in. Tell us a little bit more about how did this all start for you? How did you get in the business?
You know, I was thinking about that. It's interesting how life's twists and turns go. You know, I used to have this impression that everybody has their life kind of planned out. And, you know, in high school, they know what they want to do in college. In college, they know what they want to do in their job. And I'm finding that's fortunately not the case for most people, because my journey, you know, I was really interested in business and doing something in business. But I just kind of followed where my interests took me. And, you know, that sort of follows your passions, and what you have interested in is usually an area that you usually have some strengths in. And so I got my undergrad degree in HR training and development. And that for me grew out of a discovery around a passion I had when I was a windsurfing instructor every summer, and just loved that and loved what happened when I saw people learn to do cool things that they didn't know they could do, and the fun they could experience, and the you know, just discovering what happens when you learn an awesome skill and what it does for you. And I think that influenced my decision to go into training and development. And so I got an undergrad degree in that, and then I from that went to an MBA, and focused during that time. Really fell in love. I thought I was going to go down more of the finance track, and yet I just fell in love with a lot of the market research work that we were doing in some of the coursework. So that then got me into market research in my first job, in fact, here at O.C. Tanner many, many years ago, and started studying stuff and trying to figure out how do things work. And what does a great workplace culture look like? And then that led to some product development work where I had an opportunity to develop some of our internet products, which way back when the internet just sort of came up was a lot of fun, and learned a lot about technology and how to apply that to make some great products and services that are now multi-million-dollar products. And then kind of my passion took me back into research around culture. And that's kind of where I've been spending a lot of time, both researching and writing around leadership and how to create great workplace cultures. So as you can tell, if you sort of draw a line through that, you'd go, wow, you kind of follow your interests, and then you look back across your career and you go, oh, this makes a lot of sense. But when you look forward into the future, you can't always see that coming.
Well, I want to go back a little bit because you were born in England, correct?
Correct.
And then raised in South Africa.
Yeah, so my parents are English, and my dad worked for Shell Oil Company, and so shortly after being born in England, we moved to South Africa, and I lived there till I was 14. So kind of went to school there, grew up there, and then emigrated to the United States after that. Okay,
so which is really interesting. My brother-in-law is South African. By the way, I'm a huge fan of biltong. I mean, that's like a staple. It's a staple, definitely a staple.
Awesome.
And so he came to the country, to the U.S. at 11, and so a couple, you were 14. He still remembers the culture, the way he was raised, the education, and then coming here. Was that a big transition for you at 14 years old?
It was. I was kind of shy at the time, and it was a real adjustment. Wherever you grow up, that's your normal. And my grandparents owned a farm down there that we would go and spend the summer holidays, Christmas holidays, and just had a great experience growing up, just really getting exposed to so many different cultures and life experiences. Yeah, so transitioning to the U.S., it took a bit. I was a little shocked and had to, obviously the language was fine, but just culturally adapting was interesting.
So where was the first city you lived when you came to the U.S.?
Salt Lake City, Utah. So going from the ocean in Cape Town to the mountains.
and that's been home. That's been home for you all these years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in Texas, lived in Portland, Oregon for a few years, but have been here the majority of the time.
Okay. That's just kind of curious, and because that leads into, again, your education and where you came from. You really, absorbed a worldly background. I mean, I believe that because growing up as a young kid and then coming here, I think you have a different perspective of things. And then, again, not to be, to appreciate. I mean, because that's what you guys do, to help people appreciate things. But I think that you have a better appreciation, I'm sure, and a perception of things as you grew up in different places.
Yeah, I think that's true. At first you're not aware of that. It's like a fish in water. Fish is probably the last thing to figure out what water is because they see their world through it and they don't actually notice it. But I think when you live in very distinctly different cultures, you get to better understand the concept of culture and what those nuances are and why people think the way they do and how that culture informs their actions, the way they see the world, their worldviews. And so both, South Africa, then I lived in Hawaii for a year going to school. I did a study abroad in China, in Nanjing. Each one of these experiences kind of takes you out of the world the way you know it and plops you into a completely different perspective. And I have loved that. I think you get a rounding out of perspectives that I find really engaging. I still love to travel for the same reason, that it just gives me different perspectives on people and life. And I love that. To me, it's very, very energizing.
I absolutely agree with you. My family and I, we take yearly vacations, and whether we stay in the U.S. or we go to Europe, which is one of my favorite things to do, and I try to explain to my kids this is beyond an education. I want you to look around, be observant, sit in the audience, watch people walk by, look at mannerisms, look at the way they interact with you, look at the way they speak to other people, because you will learn from that. And exactly. So, because I'll go off on a tangent on that, but I'm going to go back a little bit to O.C. Tanner, because it's fascinating to me. A company all about recognizing and appreciating people. So I'm going to let you do better justice than I do. Jump right in. Tell us a little bit more.
Sure. It's a really cool company. It's a really unusual company. It's been around over 90 years. We just celebrated our 91st year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was started by a philosopher and somebody who taught philosophy at Stanford and other universities. And I think, had an early sense of the importance of understanding the dignity and respect of individuals during a time way back when, when so many businesses sort of viewed their employees as fungible. They're just cogs in the machine, and that the company's the machine, and people sort of can come in or out of that. And he just had this perspective around people can do extraordinary things. And if you help them do that, and you notice it when they do, and you help express appreciation for a job well done, it fuels them. It helps them understand that what they're doing really matters and matters to the organization. And it just lights people up to know that if they're going to go make a difference, that difference is going to be valued. And it just propels them to see what else they've got in their bag to bring to work and to really affect their. And he probably wouldn't have called it engagement at the time. There's a lot of concepts that I think we're much more clear about, having done a lot more research now than decades ago. But I think the underlying human value of understanding and recognizing the importance of people in business and understanding that. So that's really what the company got naturally founded on, was that philosophy and that approach. And it started by making little custom pins and awards for recognizing people at various key milestones in their careers at 5, 10, 15, 20 years, et cetera. And that's how the company began, is providing the awards and related services to administrate and manage all of that for primarily large companies, initially in the U.S., and then now we've expanded all over the world. We have a pretty strong presence in Australia, in India, in Europe, in Singapore, and all over now, Canada, and that's based on providing recognition, software, services, awards to companies to really help them appreciate people who do great work. And so it's really a joy to be part of, quite frankly, because I think it's missing in a lot of companies. And I think companies are starting to wake up to this idea that if you want to help develop people, if you want to help bring the best out of them and create a culture and a work environment where that's welcomed and encouraged, it becomes a magnet. People want to work in organizations like that. They want to work for leaders who get that. And so we spend a lot of our time helping share a lot of the research we're doing around why that works and how to make it work effectively and simply. So it's a really,
you've come a long way.
Yeah, it's a great thing to be part of.
Yeah, you've come a long way to those pins, haven't you?
Totally. And we still provide a few pins, but all kinds of other awards and custom things that we're doing for organizations that are really cool. Tons of software. We've expanded. So not only are we doing recognition now, we're also doing more to support building great workplace cultures, like a product that we just created called Align, that is a one-on-one tool to help managers facilitate those one-on-one conversations with their employees rather than wait, for the annual review that everybody hates. How do you create an ongoing dialogue and relationship? And we have a well-being product to encourage and strengthen people's well-being and vitality. And so we've been expanding as a company. We passed the $500 million mark last year, and so we're growing. We're we're expanding and having all kinds of fun. So for me, from a career standpoint, I thought I'd come to the company for 2 or 3 years and then move on, which is kind of what I was instructed to do getting an MBA. And after about 5 years, I looked around and said, geez, it's been 5 years already? What the heck? Should I be leaving right now? Should I go find something else? And I thought, well, I love what we're doing. I love the purpose of the company. I love the people I'm working with. There's some incredibly talented people. I love the customers I get to interact with. I love this job. And so I was with the company for several more years. And then with the internet revolution and having developed a number of products for this company, a school buddy of mine called me up and said, hey, come do an internet education startup. So I did that for a couple of years and got a call to come back to the company. And I've been back now 16 years. So I'm a long timer at OC Tanner. So funny how things come about.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned a couple things just a moment ago that I find is fascinating. As you know, I'm a speaker and I train people on mindset. And there's 2 types of clients out there. There are clients that truly understand the value of recognition, of making employees feel valued, letting them know the company exists because of them. Because you can have a great product and great service, but honestly, without the right people running that, it's just a product or service. And then I feel like there's another type of company that forgets that value of the employee. And I get those 2 type of calls. I get companies that say, listen, we're doing great, but we want to become better. We want to continually throw out different tools, different mechanisms, different training to teach people that we can surpass our expectations next year. And so we want to value the individual. And then you've got the companies that forget about the employees, just like you said, they consider them kind of a coggle. And, well, they're just filling a shoe for somebody else. If you don't want the job, we'll find somebody else to do it. What's unique about you guys is that you have data, you have research, you spend time on this, and I find that fascinating. It's not just, okay, we're going to recognize everybody. We're going to show you this makes a difference. We're going to give you the information, and we're going to show you that people are responding.
Yeah. And I think it's helpful for people to understand that. We created the OC Tanner Institute some years ago because we just found we were doing so much research and publishing of that research that we thought, why don't we actually fund this and develop it out as a group? And so we've got some outstanding talent now and researchers, and we're doing huge global studies every year. And again, there's a lot of people have a lot of opinions, but I'm a fan of get to the facts. What's really going on? And can you measure it? Can you see it? Can you prove it? And that's often what people need. I like your distinction between talking about 2 different camps, and we see that all the time. And sometimes people have hit it with a good product and driven a lot of demand and had a lot of success, despite maybe not having a healthy workplace culture. But eventually that catches up. It's time to now come up with the next product, or things start cracking at the seams and people start leaving, and then they start going, hey, wait a second, I thought we just had this machine that just would run no matter what. And then they find themselves in a situation where they discover they've got a pretty toxic culture, and the only reason people had stayed was just because of this sort of hyper growth cycle. And when that starts to cool off, and all of a sudden they look around and go, I just don't like it here. I don't like my leader. I don't like the team I'm on. I don't like how the company treats me. And they start looking elsewhere. And that's usually where we get the calls as well, where people are saying, we got something busted here. We got to do something about it fast because we're losing our best people. We can't attract new people. And we're starting to see our results start to take a hit. And that's inevitably what happens to organizations that don't pay attention to their people.
And you hope they change. You hope they recognize that. I can't tell you how many times somebody will come up to me and say very similar things. And it's mind-blowing. They'll say, I get too many emails. I'm too stressed out. I don't like my boss. And when you hear that, they're not just words. They're strong statements. You hope that people are open to change. You hope that people understand the importance of the human factor. I mean, that's what this comes down to. It's a human factor that you have to recognize, which I find fascinating. I mean, I'm going to change the topics for a quick second too, because I've seen you interact with your team as a leader, but I've also had the great opportunity to watch you as a speaker. And I know your background is in training, but I think you're a powerful speaker. I think that you come off very personable, very quickly, very approachable, not only when you're on platform, but interacting with clients and your audience. Did you see yourself at some point wanting, because I know you do a lot of traveling and a lot of speaking now, did you see yourself going that direction?
I did not. It's funny you bring that up because I remember when I was in college, and I had done, like I mentioned, in college, I was doing a lot of learning around how to do training and development of individuals. And so that part came fairly easily to me. And I think it was because it's so inspiring when you see, like I described, you see somebody who couldn't windsurf and now they're windsurfing and just having a ball. It's incredibly rewarding. So that part of it came easily, but the speaking part scared the heck out of me. And I remember thinking to myself in college, I got to get over this speaking fear thing. I'm going to go take a public speaking course, as one of my classes. And I was scared of that. Like, other courses came along, stats and whatever. It's like, okay, whatever. But public speaking, I'm thinking, I'm going to have to sign up now, and I'm sure in the class they're going to make you speak in front of these people, and it scared me to death. And they video you and give you tons of feedback, but it really helped me get over some of those fears. And I discovered then something that's, I think, been core for me now that I'm doing a lot of speaking, is that there's a difference between speaking about something and sharing something that is deeply meaningful to you. And once I got out of seeing myself and worrying about presenting and shifting that mindset to, I'm sharing something that's going to help you make a real difference in your life as a leader or in whatever capacity. And I can't wait to share that with you because it's going to really help you. And when I get into that space, it's almost like I forget that I'm, quote, giving a presentation or on stage in front of hundreds of people or thousands of people and speaking, and all eyes are on me. Instead of feeling that way, I'm like, you got to love this stuff. Let me give you an example of what happened to so-and-so, and let me share some research we just did. That's where, for me, it's come alive. So did I sort of plan for that? Did I have a career path that I thought would lead me to that? No, but it just kind of happened. And now that I've spoken hundreds of times and to 30,000 plus people around the world, it's now not so terrifying. It's not so scary. There are still moments when I'm getting up on the stage and there's tons of people and they're all sort of looking like, okay, how's this guy going to be? Is this going to be a waste of my time or not? And you can kind of feel that in the room. And so those first, 30 to 120 seconds, you're kind of going, okay, how's this going to be? And then you get into it. And then I just love this, sharing and helping people grow and develop. So.
Well, you said a lot of things that are so relevant to what I do. And I'll give you an example. So I can't tell you how many times a month I will get a call from a C-suite level executive that just saw a keynote that I did, and they will reach out to me personally and say, listen, I saw your whole program. I saw your whole program about mindset and what you do. Teach me how to actually use your techniques to get over a fear of public speaking. And it comes up quite often. Maybe it's ironic, but I think it comes back to the fact that we're all human. Doesn't matter who we are, no matter where we come from. We're going to have feelings of doubt. We're going to have feelings that are going to hold us back from performance because a preconceived outcome that hasn't even happened yet has literally given us a different perspective, and it makes us nervous. It makes us fearful. We start thinking about, like you just said, I start thinking about everybody else, and I stop thinking about what I'm here to do, and it's to help people. Mm-hmm. And some of the key points that I talk to executives on a regular basis are exactly what you just said. Let's go through your speech that you're going to do. What's your main purpose? What's the outcome? What's your mission? And we start going through it. It's a conversation. I go, okay, now go talk to everybody about what you just told me. And it just changes the mindset of an individual. It's because, again, our everybody's heard me say it, our mind can be our best friend. It could be our worst enemy. But when we acknowledge it, we start to become more aware of it, and we start to create action to where we want to go. And exactly what you just said about public speaking is there's hundreds of people just like you, but you taught yourself to overcome it, which is just awesome.
Yeah, and I remember, just one quick thing on that I learned a big lesson on, and that was I was invited to give a TEDx talk, and I've loved TED Talks, and I've listened to tons of them, and I just love the format, the energy, the inspiration, the insights that come out of that. And so I remember preparing for that, and they took us through a day-long preparation on a Saturday some weeks before, because they wanted you to be, not everybody is a great speaker, and yet they may have something really insightful to say, but they were providing some coaching on at least how to do that in a way that really would sort of live up to the brand of TED Talks. And I remember vividly, sort of stepping into that. And I loved some of the questions that they asked us early, and then they video us and critique and just help us kind of get ready for that. And one of the questions they asked was, what are the things you care most deeply about? And then what is it that you feel you can do to help the audience move closer to whatever that vision is that you have for them? And it just, again, it shifts your mind off giving a presentation to helping make a difference for people. And that's that shift that happens that makes you just go, okay, that engages me. That I think I could do. And then you shift your thinking away from yourself and toward helping people understand it. And it's just a good thing, I think, for everybody to better understand, so then they don't get so self-conscious about what they're trying to do.
If you're a leader, you're in sales, you're an executive, doesn't make a difference who you are. That applies, I think, just about everything.
Yeah.
What you just said. I think you can apply that in everything you do in life.
Agreed.
What inspires you?
I've thought about that. A lot of things. I think at the core of it, it's how do I make a difference? I think that's at the core of it, because I don't get that excited about, hey, these are the series of tasks that I love doing. A lot has been written over the years about find your passion, find your passion. And if you can find your passion, then work becomes a joy, et cetera. And it's almost like the inference in that approach is that there's one thing out there that you can do really well, and you've just got to spend your life finding that, and then sort of life's good after that. And that's not been my experience. I had lots of different passions. I've had real passions around research and understanding how things work. I've had passion around product development in my career and loving building things that get used by millions of people around the world. I think there's lots of different passions that people have inside of them, that as they can access them in various different channels of work or tasks, or both at work or at home or in the community, whatever their environment is, I think we all have a number of different ways that we can express and channel our energies and creative abilities. And I think if you then sort of follow all of those back to the core underneath, for me, the simplest way to say that is, I want to make a difference. I want to actually be able to see a before and an after, and see the after is better for people around me, better for customers, better for my colleagues, better for those who report to me. That to me is what causes me to read, to think, to self-reflect, to apply myself in new ways, because of the joy, the sense of reward that comes after having made a difference that I can actually see. And so that's it for me. That's what drives me. That's what causes me to be excited about driving into work in the morning, even on difficult projects, because you see a chance, especially on difficult projects, to make an even bigger difference, because it's a challenge. You've got you got to crack that others haven't cracked maybe in that way before. And so that drives me. How do you make a difference that other people will just love?
Is there anybody in particular that's inspired you? Maybe somebody that you've met or somebody you just admire?
It's a good question. There's a lot of people, I think of some of the greats out there, Gandhi and others, that, you track what they've done and the influence they've had in the world. And that influence is born out of some interesting combinations of some just drive and desire and vision and some skill and talent. As I think about kind of way back when, what influenced me a lot in that regard, I often think of my parents, quite frankly, but my mom and my dad were quite different from each other and came from quite different families. My dad's side, was a trained engineer. He went to the equivalent of MIT in the UK, and so he's got a real engineering mind. Smart guy. All of his, my grandparents and all the way back were Oxford, Cambridge people. Smart, really intelligent people. And my mom's side, I don't think any of them went to college. I don't think my grandpa went to high school, and yet was a very successful entrepreneur and just had this really deep work ethic and trying new things and around creativity and invention and building businesses. And so I got this really interesting perspective growing up between sort of work ethic and relationships and sort of that side of life, and then this sort of almost academic, analytical side. And I think I have really benefited from the juxtaposition of those, from the mix of those, that I'm reminded of the benefit of totally different ways of thinking, that when you bring those together, there's some real magic to that. So for me, I think those were probably my two greatest influencers in my life.
Most kids don't want to give their parents credit for the knowledge they have, but as we get older, we start quoting them, of course. We start looking back at all their experiences, of course. And now I laugh with my kids as I say something even motivational, and then they make fun of me. Oh, Dad's just talking, his mindset again. But deep down, I hope that it's engraved. I hope they look back at us, and have that admiration as you do with your parents, and it's very humbling and very grateful at the same time. So in what you do is fascinating. Again, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I am fascinated by it. I think you guys have an incredible company, a incredible culture. You're a very unique individual that really is, taken appreciation to the next level. What kind of advice or statement or what can you leave us with when it comes to appreciation? If I'm a business owner, I'm a leader, I'm a manager, or if I'm in sales, is there one thing in particular that would spark me to want to do more, to appreciate?
Yeah. A lot of people haven't quite understood the value of it. Sometimes I see or hear managers say, oh, people really seem to want that and need that, and I'm not that good at giving it, and kind of like whatever, and I think they don't understand what's really going on. I think every manager, every leader is hoping for, and quite frankly, their biggest job as a leader is to help create an environment where people thrive, where people reach for more than they've done before, where they accomplish greater things than they even thought capable of accomplishing. That's really, I think, the ultimate call of a leader, is to help bring that out in people and help them discover that ability they have within them. And when you understand why, and we spent tons of research and thousands of interviews with individuals saying, why did you do what you did? You just did something remarkable. You just got awarded the President's Award in your company. Talk to me about where that idea began, how that happened. And inevitably, it starts with somebody wanting to do something that, in our way of saying it, wants to make a difference. They want to have an impact. They want to do something that really contributes in some way. And pretty much everyone deep down wants to do that. So they often will set out on a path that says, man, I've got an idea how to fix this little process or save some time in this or save the company some money or win this new account or whatever it is. There's a little beginnings of a possibility to make a difference. Once they do that, if they see that through and actually go pull off making a difference, impacting the operations in some way, gaining that advantage, whatever it was, they've made a difference. If that leader understands,
that's very powerful.
Yeah, if that leader understands, that is exactly, that thing that they just did is exactly what we all hope for. You did it. And then if you understand the role you have as a leader to say, what you just did, let's talk about that. And I like to think about 4 little things that make recognition really powerful and meaningful. And it's just a little acronym called SAIL, S-A-I-L. And I'd leave all of those who are listening to use this, because it's so easy. If you think, I just want to sail through this recognition moment and really make it a powerful experience. The S is really, first, talk about the situation. This is what this person faced, either a broken process or an opportunity or an upset customer or whatever that situation is. Talk about the situation that person found themselves in, the context, if you will. Then the A is the action. What specific action did they take? What did they actually do? And be specific there. Don't be general. General praise is actually backfires on you all day long. To say, oh, I just love every little thing this person does, whatever the heck they do, we just love that thing. And people can see right through that and go, you don't even know what the heck I do, right? So action needs to be specific. Like, I saw you go over and talk to so-and-so, and then I saw you later on, you followed up with that customer. And so that they know exactly, what they did, and everybody else around you gets to hear the specifics. So that's action. Then the I is talk about the impact. Talk about the impact that person made. And often people don't even understand the ripple effect of the good thing that they did and how that creates value for the organization. It creates value for the team, which then dominoes up and creates value for the organization. And then finally, the L is link it back to what the company's about or what your team is about. So they can see a line of sight between what I do and how that impacts the greater whole on the team, on the organization. And I find that if you do that, you will always have your recognition be, 1, genuine and sincere, and 2, people will get that you get the value of what they really did, and that it's not just trying to satiate a desire that people have to be appreciated. It's not that at all. It's that you are paying attention as a leader to understand how value is created. And when people create that value, man, shine a spotlight on that. Talk about it. Celebrate it. Gather people around. This is what great work looks like. This is what this person did. And this is why we're going to pause for a minute and celebrate that. And to me, that's incredibly inspiring. And then it's very real. And that's a very different experience than maybe some other people have felt like, oh, people just want to, have nice things said about them. That's not it. And I think when people do that, leaders do that, they'll start to understand the impact that makes on individuals and how it helps them build careers and build them to be incredible difference makers and tackle projects and opportunities that really haven't even been done yet. So that's, I think, what I would leave your listeners with is think about that. And I think it'll change how you lead.
It's phenomenal advice. Absolutely phenomenal. And not only can it apply in the workplace, I'm sure that it will transcend at home, in relationships, friends.
Great point.
I think it does. I think when people are happy, when they communicate better, when they perform with a different mindset at work and it's successful and they feel that, they want to take it home with them. They want to show their friends why they're so successful. They want to show their spouses, their kids, their significant others why this works. So great analogies. Thank you so much for sharing that. I didn't expect that. So thank you very much. And if you're inspired, no, absolutely. And if you're inspired by what we're talking about, please check out David's book. Great work. How to Make a Difference People Love, and the newly released book, the companion book to it, Appreciate. My friend David, thank you so much for taking time to share this, your background, a little bit of where you grew up, where you were going, and I see nothing but amazing things more that you're going to do in the near future.
Thank you, Ricky. Again, pleasure being with you, and I'm also inspired by the work you're doing. It's a delight, and I'm thrilled that you're doing these podcasts. I think a lot of people will benefit from what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you.
You have been listening to Amplify Your Mindset with Ricky Kalman. For more information on Ricky Kalman's corporate and personal development programs, visit rickykalman.com.